and I commend it to the House.
Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr Speaker, one of the National Party's major election promises was, and I quote them, better public services, end of quotes, and it was going to be a top priority. And this is it. 4.5 years later, this is a sum of all their effort, because apparently what's going wrong with the country economically and socially is all to do with New Zealand's civil service. Now, 176 pages of technocratic jargon and bureaucratic speak with a few legalistic niceties thrown in for good measure, and I was certain the MP for the Wairarapa, with his experience, would have picked this up. Because he's the man of the world. He's been around. He's heard this sort of mumbo-jumbo before. I thought if there's one man on the National Party team, it was Mr Hayes. Usually, he's sharp as a tack. He shows courage. Now, there is nothing in this bill that will deliver any tangible benefit to the Kiwi mums and dads who National claim to represent. What the bill proposes to do? Well, it's going to establish departmental agencies within existing government departments, each with their own chief executive officer. It's all there. Part 1, Clause 17, and new sections 27A and 27B of the State Services Act, and Mr Hayes surely must have been alarmed when he saw that. Just as alarmed as you. See, the National Party's approach to better public services is more government departments and more chief executives. Oh, yes, it is. It's all here. There are already 35 government departments. Each has its own CEO, earning on average between $457,000 and $470,000. Hear that? 35 government departments already. Each has its own CEO, earning between $457,000 and $470,000, or 10 times the average annual income. And what is National doing? Hiring more of them. Hiring more of them. That's what the State Sector and Public Finance Reform Bill means in practice. And it's all here in black and white, Part 1, Clause 28, amending Section 35. We've no idea how many new departmental agencies and departmental agency chief executives there will be. But the intent is clear. New Zealand First firmly opposes the National Party's attempts to hire more of their rich mates in cushy public sector jobs. Now, Mr Bennett from Hamilton laughs. But I'll get to a quote shortly, and he won't be laughing then, because that's precisely what the National Party wants to do. And the sad thing is that previously innocent but sometimes good people like Mr Bennett are being led by the nose, taken for a ride, had the wool pulled over their eyes. That allows for government... Look, here's the point. It allows, Section 2, allows for departments or departmental agencies to delegate public service functions or powers to contractors or individuals working in the private sector. What? All here, all in here. Part 1, Clause 28, amending Section 35 of the State Services Act. Now, New Zealand First has serious reservations about the delegation of public service functions and powers to individuals working in the private sector. How does that work? Who's going to surveil them? Oh, why? Mr Bennett, when he's at the Select Committee. Do you feel safe now? Do you feel safe that Mr Bennett's going to be surveilling these people, making sure he keeps an eye on them? These private individuals with public contracts from the taxpayer? Amazing, really. We question the efficacy and appropriateness of such outsourcing. We are yet to see any evidence that this will result in more savings and better public service outcomes. This bill threatens to overturn the long-standing constitutional convention of civil service impartiality by exempting public servants working in minister's office. Any public servant in the minister's office now is exempt from the issue of civil service impartiality. Now, they are not political appointments, or they shouldn't be, from the requirement that selection must be based on merit. How do you like that? So now no longer do we have a Constitutional Convention section on merit, and you get them exempt from these provisions of the old legislation. Such a provision leaves the door wide open to cronyism within the state sector. New Zealand First holds grave concerns about the politicisation of the public service. Now, here's the point, Mr Bennett and Mr Hayes and Maggie Barry and all those people who so clearly are assigned to give away their loyalty on such an important matter, which with interest we note a recent National Party strategy paper leaked to the media that called for a pool of fiscal conservative bureaucrats who will work with politicians to implement policy, unquotes. It's all laid out, quotes, a pool of fiscal conservative bureaucrats who will work with politicians to implement policy, end of quotes. Crikey, they've already got Treasury. They've already got Treasury. Not happy with that. Unbelievable. They go on further. Do you want me to table National Party strategy? Look, Mr Hayes, go beyond the veil of your caucus and demand, as a hard-working provincial MP about to be taken for a ride again, to see the paper. They go on to say, the National Party strategy paper, reforms necessary to ensure policies implemented by bureaucrats rather than blocked by them, end of quotes. Unbelievable. Naked, plain, clear as daylight. In other words, they want to stack the civil service with their mates, and these reforms will give them the capacity to do so. Now, the rest of the bill, of course, totally sidesteps the real issues. New Zealand First remains firmly of the view that there is nothing in this bill that will result in any tangible benefit to ordinary New Zealanders. They want to stack the civil service with their mates. These reforms give them the ability to do so. Removing the requirement for ministerial appointments to be impartial overturns centuries of Westminster tradition and must not be tolerated in a modern democratic nation.
No, that's right.
It's down to that. Now, Mr Bennett and Mr Hayes, here's some issues. Nova Pay, fraud in the Canterbury rebuild,
Yes.
Pike River,
Yes.
the Rena disaster, Cave Creek, the Lab 3 105 vehicle blowout from $170 million to $1 billion, and the INSIS scandal and the INSIS computerisation scandal. Tell me, those are just a few notable cases. What in this bill is going to stop that?
Nothing.
Nothing. So stop blaming everybody but yourselves for your economic incompetence.
That's right.
For your inability to run a sound economy. Since 2007, the GDP per capita of this country has moved by 0.7%. Standing still, utterly standing still. Since that time, of course, in the recovery, we've had 1% of the population pick up about 20% of the recovery. The other 99% have gone down minus 0.04. Picked up nothing. Unbelievable. Again, of those disasters, which one would be solved by this legislation? And the answer is none. And Mr Bennett's next. I want him to tell the people of Hamilton why he will not do his duty by his country instead of acting as a sycophantic cannon fodder for the National Party.
I call David Bennett.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Just before we talk about the bill, I just want to give a bit of a history lesson.